probably doesn't lend itself to a one-word answer. What about Saddam Hussein?
Yeah. Who's that? Trick question.
Oh boy, isn't war funny? So all the Pentagon correspondents are all laughing about the funny question while we're bombing and slaughtering people in Iraq. Isn't it funny?
Exactly what is it about him that you're interested in? His health?
Where is he? Do you know where he is? Are you trying to get him? Is he likely to get away?
There's no question but that it is hard to find a single person. It is hard to find them when they're alive and mobile. It's hard to find them when they're not well. And it's hard to find them if they're buried under rubble. We don't know. And he's not been around. He's not active. Therefore, he's either dead, or he's incapacitated, or he's healthy and cowering in some tunnel someplace, trying to avoid being caught. What else can one say?
Will you get him?
Who knows? Who knows? Time will tell. The important things that needed to happen will happen. That the regime will change, and the country will no longer have weapons of mass destruction. It will no longer threaten its neighbors. It will have an opportunity for the people of Iraq to participate in determining what kind of a government they want, and liberated people will be able to be free to say what they want and do what they want. They might even have a free press eventually there. Can you imagine?
Hey, fans of Nerds Make Media's YouTube channel. I thought that since it seems like we're on the cusp of bombing yet another country once again, and doesn't seem like we've learned our lesson from the Iraq War, that it would be a good idea to just put on some news coverage from the Iraq War that I recorded on VHS tape way back in 2003. Just reviewing it a little bit, it looks to me like it's Fox and CNN. They both seem to be like they're the Pentagon channel. They're cheerleaders for the war. And they're all gaga about the technology.
Together, coalition forces are advancing day by day in steady progress against the enemy. Slowly but surely, the grip of terror around the throats of the Iraqi people is being loosened.
High-level war talks and looking beyond the fighting. Two allies thrash out plans. Hello, I'm Wolf Blitzer, reporting tonight live from Kuwait City.
Hi, Wolf. Good to see you again. Do you ever get any sleep, Wolf? I don't think so.
I get sleep. I got plenty of sleep, Paula, not to worry.
All right, I won't then. I'm Paula Zahn in New York. Welcome to another hour CNN special coverage of the strike on Iraq. Joining us in this hour, some of our correspondents on the front lines, including Ben Wiedemann in northern Iraq, our own Jamie Colby at Fort Hood, Texas, and our White House correspondent Suzanne Malveaux with President Bush and his strongest ally at Camp David. Let's go to Suzanne with the latest on what the president and the prime minister are talking about at this hour at their Camp David summit. Good afternoon, Suzanne.
Good afternoon, Paula. President Bush and British Prime Minister Tony Blair at this hour are sharing lunch together here at Camp David. This is all a part of a 24-hour war council, really to outline their goals of this war as well as the progress. The point of the summit also to show their resolve in moving forward to disarm Saddam Hussein. President Bush saying that, yes, the grip of terror around the throats of the Iraqi people is being loosened. Also said this was a time, a dangerous time, when U.S. forces, allied forces, were confronting the most desperate units, but he also emphasized a sense of resolve, and he said that the mission would be achieved, but neither leader would commit to a timetable.
If I can, it's a matter of timetable, it's a matter of victory. And the Iraqi people have got to know that, see? They got to know. that they will be liberated and Saddam Hussein will be removed no matter how long it takes.
Also, we heard from British Prime Minister Tony Blair, who emphasized the role of the UN after a post-Saddam regime, saying that the UN must be involved, that they need the endorsement, the backing of the international community. He did not go beyond that, really saying that that would be for another time. They are still dealing with battles, so many other issues. And of course, Paula, as you know, that's one of the points of differences between the Bush administration as well as Blair. Just how involved should the UN be afterwards, after this conflict is all over? But both of the leaders did agree on the UN Oil for Food program, that it needs to move forward. That is really stuck in the UN at this time. As you know, they pulled out those staffers right before the strike, the UN trying to get them back inside. But the Bush administration would like to see that program revised in some way, from the UN administering it to the Iraqi government, or rather a reformed Iraqi government taking over that. Well, there's some UN members, primarily Russia as well as Syria, that are concerned this gives Britain as well as the United States too much power, because they realize they're going to be involved in forming that Iraqi government. Paula?
Suzanne Malveaux, thanks for that update. And Wolf, it might be interesting to point out, one of our previous guests, when referring to some of the divisions between the Brits and the Americans on this issue of just how you deal with a post-war Iraq, called it kicking it down the road, kicking the can down the road, because Secretary Powell said yesterday he would like the U.S. to have dominating control over that process, and the Prime Minister very much wants UN control of that matter.
A clear source of some difference between these two allies, no doubt. The Bush administration having a lot less confidence in the UN as a result of what's happened over these past several months. Paula, I want to show our viewers what's happening now in Baghdad. Remember, here in the Persian Gulf, it's just after 8 p.m. And this is the time when the sirens very often, at least over this first week of the war, have been going off. It's dark now here in the Persian Gulf, dark in Kuwait City, dark over Baghdad. As a result, it's a good time, presumably, for the U.S. to be looking for selected targets, going down their target list over Baghdad. About an hour or so ago, as you well know, and as our viewers know who are watching, there were those sirens that went off. They probably will be going off rather frequently in the coming hours. The weather right now here in this part of the world is a lot better than it was. That means the visibility is better. That means that the targets, the opportunities for hitting selected targets for the fighter pilots and helicopter pilots, for that matter, are often a lot better. We're going to monitor what's happening on the streets of Baghdad, over the skies of Baghdad.
And we have news just into Fox News. U.S. Navy officials, in fact, confirming that Iranian gunboats have intercepted an Iraqi speedboat apparently filled with explosives. This is according to U.S. Navy officials, who say that they are continuing to be extremely vigilant for Iraqi coastal activity. The Navy had been worried about this so-called fast boat threat. They say that it could threaten the coalition naval vessels or even commercial shipping. But again, Iranian waters is where this took place. Officials confirming that Iranian gunboats have intercepted an Iraqi so-called fast boat. David.
And to the front lines now, Fox's Greg Kelly is traveling with the Army's 3rd Infantry Division. He's got the latest from there. Greg?
Hi, David. We've heard about those airstrikes in Baghdad. Well, they've also been going on in other parts of the country. We are in the vicinity of Ananjaf. And a few hours ago, the local Ba'ath Party headquarters was targeted with a JDAM off of an F-18 fighter. Now, a JDAM is a pretty powerful weapon. It's guided by GPS. It's deadly accurate. One of the reasons that Ba'ath Party headquarters was targeted, as Mike Tobin mentioned, there are reports that Ba'ath Party operatives are coercing and taking hostage women and children to force the fathers to fight the coalition forces. Now, despite all this fighting, it's been going on for a couple of days now around Ananjaf with the Al-Quds and the Fedayeen. There are substantial indications that they have the situation well in hand. The commanders tell us they have been, quite frankly, killing an awful lot of these fighters, and that their numbers are dwindling, and they haven't seen as much fighting from them in recent hours. Also, now they believe they have them relatively isolated. They know where they are. Also, we can tell you that the troops seem to be holding up pretty well. Morale pretty high. A lot of these troops have come under fire. They are excited to be engaged in something that they've been training for for so long. Also, we can tell you, though, that they are anxious to get this stuff cleaned up and on job so they can press forward, ultimately, to Baghdad. David?
Greg, a quick question for you, if I can. Of course, some troops obviously were surprised at the ferocity and the mean-spiritedness of these folks embedded in the communities, the Saddam's irregular troops, so to speak. There's a very quick learning curve on the battlefield. Right now, do they feel prepared for just about anything that's coming their way, our troops?
I think that's safe to say. You know, they're asked a lot about chemical weapons. Journalists probably fear them the most. And these guys tell us time and time again, if that happens, they are ready. And come to you right now in mop gear, the full chemical protective suit, just minus the mask. We got those at the ready. These guys are very confident about the days to come. The fighting thus far, they're still putting it in the harassment category, the nuisance category. We have not taken casualties, 2nd Brigade. We've come 4,000 troops have come deep inside Iraq, and no one from this unit has been killed. They think they're lucky in one respect, but they also think they are just so they overpower the Iraqi militia so much that it's really no contest. David?
All right, our man on the front. Greg, keep it up. Great work. We appreciate it. Coalition forces closing in on Baghdad from all directions. Joining us now in our studio to assess the latest action in Iraq, Fox military analyst, retired Army Captain David Christian. Captain, first of all, Basra in the south. We first reported 2 days ago there seemed to be a popular revolt of some type going on. British forces are around there now. They've been sort of holding off because they don't want to lead to any false expectations of the rebels inside who still might be at the mercy of these irregular troops. Some people suggest, though, that now is the time. I know it's not in the battle game. We wanted to go after Baghdad first, but take Basra now. Show the Iraqi people, show the world that we are there to liberate towns, and we're going to start with Basra. Could we change the battle plans?
Battle plans are always adjustable, and you can always massage a battle plan around. And it's a good concept for psychological warfare because we're receiving pictures around the world, especially the Arab world, of all kinds of, one helicopter is magnified 100 times over, it seems like. And it seems like there's armies of people, and they're showing the Americans losing, where the Americans have taken very few casualties, and they're doing very well. So at first we were giving the British to go into Basra, but maybe we should infiltrate with the Marines and infiltrate with some Army personnel to take Basra.
And we've talked about that before, the integration of different forces, even from different countries.
That the general was referring to by irregulars, paramilitary forces continuing to be a problem. But officials here are insisting there is no overall change in the U.S. strategy. They will continue to press on to Baghdad. But beginning this weekend, there will be more troops flowing to the region. A pre-planned deployment of about 20,000 troops from the 4th Infantry Division in Texas. They are going to begin moving this weekend. And we are also learning that there are about another 100,000 ground troops still in the pipeline. All have already received deployment orders over the last several weeks, but these 100,000 ground troops are expected to now begin flowing to the region, possibly as soon as next month. This is part of the plan, we are told. Nothing different, but unless the situation dramatically changes on the ground, indeed, they will begin moving to the region. This includes a number of heavy units, the 1st Cavalry Division, the 1st Armored Division, and 2 Armored Cavalry Regiments. Again, officials remind us it is all part of the plan, but expect to see more ground troops moving to the region. Bill?
And if that's the case, Barbara, you got to wonder whether or not they can move as fast as the Pentagon and Don Rumsfeld would like them to move. On a different topic, these missiles or these explosions or these bombs or whatever you want to characterize it, in northern Baghdad, that neighborhood yesterday, what more are we learning, if anything, and where they came from?
Well, officials are telling us in regards to this marketplace attack that was on Iraqi TV yesterday, they say, by looking at the video, by conducting some analysis of the craters they have seen, they do not believe at this point that it was the weapons that they used to attack another set of military targets in another Baghdad residential neighborhood. They don't believe it was a U.S. bomb gone astray. The major reason they say this, they look at the craters, They use 2,000-pound bombs. They say if it had gone astray, this marketplace would not be standing. The craters are too shallow. The damage doesn't reflect, they believe, a U.S. bomb gone astray. They will continue to look into it, but at this point, they are suggesting it was either Iraqi sabotage or some type of Iraqi weapon that was fired into the air and came back down. But they do say they struck some Iraqi military targets in another residential neighborhood, targets that they say were within 300 feet of some Baghdad homes. Bill?
Not much room for error in those. Barbara Starr, thanks, at the Pentagon. Back here in the region now, back to our embedded reporters. We checked in with Ryan Chilcote about 2 hours ago. The sun was setting. He's with the 101st Airborne, 3rd Brigade. Ryan, good evening again. What do you have now?
Well, the sun has set, and actually the reason why this is green video is because this is night shot. We're actually in blackout conditions here at the forward operating base of the 101st in central Iraq. So we have to maintain, if you will, that light discipline. We can't use white light to do this interview. Real quickly, yesterday, the 101st Airborne actually had some soldiers out on the perimeter. They spotted a white SUV driving up towards the base. They surrounded it. Inside were 6 Iraqi men. They immediately surrendered to those soldiers. With us right now we have Colonel Mike Linnington. He's the commander of the 3rd Brigade of the 101st Airborne. He could tell us a little bit more about that. What do you know about the Iraqi men that were yesterday were captured?
Yeah, Ryan, we were, of course, as you know, in the middle of one of the worst shamal and dust storms we've had in a long time. And I got a report that we had some infiltrations down to our south. Soldiers did all the right thing and apprehended these 6 individuals that were coming into our perimeter in a white SUV with all the indications of being the same modus operandi of other paramilitaries that were working in the area. So we took them under apprehension and treated them as enemy prisoners of war.
Now, who do you think they are?
We're not sure at this point. We conducted all the preliminary interviews, confiscated the items of information they had with them, some papers that were obviously loyal to the Ba'ath Party and Saddam Hussein, and large sums of cash, which we felt were significant in their apprehension. They were either couriers of some type or attempting to go make payoff or do something along those lines. So we processed them and sped them to the rear.
People are hearing a lot about resistance, about Iraqi resistance. Can you describe what kind of resistance the troops are facing right now?
In our sector now, it's very sporadic. As the 3rd Infantry Division attacked through this area, they destroyed all of the 11th Infantry and the regular Army forces in this area, either destroyed or they surrendered. The only thing that's left in this area, we believe right now, is small pockets of resistance, which we are securing and other elements from 3ID are securing. So very limited resistance at this point, and once we consolidate those gains, then we'll continue to press to the north.
Okay, all right. Well, that was Colonel Mike Linnington, commander of the 3rd Brigade. Bill, back to you.
Ryan, thanks for the update again. Ryan Chilcote with the 101st in central Iraq. Quickly, while we have the time, move to northern Iraq, and CNN's Ben Wiedemann. He's not embedded, but he's been watching the activity between the Kurds and also the incoming American troops. He's in the town of Kalak. Ben, good evening.
Yes, good evening, Bill. Well, it's been a fairly busy day here in the north, starting very early at about 3 a.m. My colleague Brent Sadler was out and about going to the Harir Air Base not far from Erbil, the Kurdish stronghold, where he saw about 1,000 U.S. paratroopers of the 173rd Airborne Brigade arrive in that area. They came basically with light arms, jumping out of their planes late at night, landing on that field, basically securing it, and as the army, as the military would say, but it's and describing it as a semi-permissive environment, but in fact it's a very permissive environment. It's an area controlled by the Kurdish militias here, who have been very positive in their reaction to the arrival of U.S. forces. Now, while my colleague Brent was out in the Harir airfield, we were here in Kalak very early in the morning as well, at about 6:15, 6:20 in the morning. U.S. planes circling overhead, just 2 U.S. planes from what we could see. and then they dropped 4 bombs on the Iraqi frontline positions behind me. Those bombs hitting trenches and fortifications in that area. And we saw that basically throughout the morning, U.S. airplanes, we assume U.S. airplanes, we can describe them as coalition airplanes, flying overhead, really terrifying the Iraqi troops in those positions. We saw as the planes would fly over, the Iraqi troops would scurry off to their fortifications. Now, one bit of information coming out in the afternoon from our colleague Kevin Seitz, who's in the Kurdish town of Chamchamal outside the Iraqi-controlled city of Kirkuk, a very important area because of its oil resources there. He excuse me, he is reporting that Iraqi forces have in fact pulled back from the frontline positions in that area, and that Kurdish forces have taken over the ridge there. One final bit of information we have learned from Kurdish intelligence sources that in the last 5 days, as many as 200 Iraqi troops have defected from the Iraqi front lines, many of them in this area, some of them in fact swimming across the river. Now, according to those Kurdish intelligence sources, there are some senior Iraqi officers among those defectors. Back to you.
All right, Ben, thanks. Ben Wiedemann in northern Iraq, watching the entire northern front for us. And Ben, thanks for checking in. It's almost 8 o'clock here in Kuwait City. As we go back to New York, Paul, I want to tell you, there was so much concern before this entire conflict began about the warming temperatures here in the desert. But tonight, it is frankly downright cool out here. Temperatures are in the 60s. There's a breeze about 10 miles an hour, which makes it a little colder. In addition to that, the Kuwaitis tell us these sandstorms we've experiencing, they expect them in May and June, but they don't expect them in March, and already they've had 4 in the past 3 weeks. But the haze has moved out right now, possibly similar conditions in Iraq too, based on the reporting we're getting, but a cold front has followed right along behind that, though. It is chilly here in Kuwait this evening. Paula, that's it for me. I'll see you again tomorrow, all right? Same time, same place then.
Look forward to that. I will tell you, your background was dramatically different today during daylight hours. It really, you couldn't even make out those water towers. It was just like a brown haze behind you.